Welcome, wonderful people. This is Mr. Visitor once again, and this time we are going to look at a generic class. And I don't want to lie, this is going to be a little bit more challenging. So it will be very best that we try to understand very carefully in here. Please, we both need our attention in this. So what I did was to revert back to the class that we had, a public abstract class animal, with all the methods that we did previously, as you can see, with the chicken there and cow. Right, so everything is in the standard form of inheritance, and we have dealt with all this. So you might want to go and look at our tutorial creating a list of animals, right? An array list of animals. We deal with this stuff. So what I want us to do, just to add something into this, what I'm going to do there is to just simply add some few things. So the very first thing that I think I should add there is a method. So we are going to have a method that I will add inside there, and this method that I'm going to add there, it's going to be an abstract method because I am in an abstract class. So whenever you are inside of an abstract class, you can declare abstract methods that will be implemented by every class that inherits from the base class. So this method, first of all, it's going to be public. It is going to return void, let me say public abstract. It will return void, and I'm just going to call this method make noise. And an abstract method is a method that has no body, as you can see, and this method does not also accept any arguments. So this is an abstract method that I have. So every class that inherits from animal must provide an implementation of this method. Now, because chicken inherits from that, as you hover over here, it will tell you that chicken does not implement the inherited abstract member animal.make noise. So we're just going to press on show some potential fixes, and then what we are going to do there is simply to say implement. There it is. So when I press enter there, it will override that method which is inside of animal. So it will say public override void make noise. And what is it that we want to have in there? So when we are in here, one thing that we want to do there is to have a right line, and in this right line, let me just say whatever the name of this chicken is, I'm just going to say name says, and I'm going to say clock. So this is the type of noise that a chicken would make. So I have provided an implementation of this abstract method that is found inside of animal. So right, if this is so, then I am just fine. I know I also have to go inside of cow, and the same thing has to transpire. So what I'm going to do in there is just to provide an implementation of that. So I'm just going to have a right line in there, and what I'm going to say is just to say whatever the name of this cow is, what type of noise will a cow make, and then we can just say a cow says, sorry, moo. So this would be the sound of a cow, so it makes that moo sound. So I have provided an implementation for that, and everything seems to be working fine. But now let's get to what we want. So what I'm going to do is just to simply add another class, and this class, let me see, I'm going to call this a super cow. So I will have a class which I will call a super cow. So because it's a super cow, therefore super cow will inherit from a cow, because super cow is in fact a cow. So it will have access to all the public methods and fields that are exposed by a cow. And then when we are here, it says there is no argument that corresponds to the required parameter name of cow.cow, which is a string. So I have to have a constructor in here, because there's a constructor inside of cow that accepts a string argument. So this is going to be public. It will have the same name as the name of a class. So it accepts one argument of type string, and when I say base, it will refer to the parent, which is cow in this case. So I will just say base name, and because I don't have any other additional fields in there, I'm just going to leave this the way in which it is. And then let me just have a method in there. Let me just have a public void method which I will call fly. It will accept no arguments. And then in fact, let me not do this. Let me not do that. Let me use the fat arrow. So let me just have a right line. Okay, I will need to import that. So I'm using static system.console. Very good. So what I'm going to do there is just to have a right line, and in this right line, what I will say, it's simply the following. So I'm going to say whatever your name is says, okay, let's say for example, here I come to save the day. So this would be the fly method that I have. So when I invoke this method, whatever name I pass to this object will say here I come to save the day. So nothing new we have done thus far. Everything seems normal. We all understand what is happening here. Nothing mysterious is happening. But now here we comes to the nitty-gritty of things. So what I'm going to do, secondly, I'm going to create now a generic class. And I want you to see how sophisticated this is going to be. Hence I said we need so much of attention in this. So I'm going to call this class farm, because all animals live in a farm. So there is a lot that we want to achieve in here. First of all, we want to isolate some of the animals inside of this farm which are of a specific type. So there is a lot of things that we want to do in here. So let me make this class public, because I might want to instantiate this when I'm outside of this class. And I am going to create a generic class. Very important, this class will be public. It will be called a farm, but it will be of a specific type, and this is a generic type. Very, very important that we understand this. So immediately when you have these angle brackets, and then that tells you that you are creating a generic class. This is public class which is called farm, but it is a generic class of that specified type. Very, very important that we understand this. And this generic class, let's allow this class to inherit from an interface. Why? Because there are some methods that are exposed in this interface that we will talk about just in a few minutes that would allow us a certain functionality. So this generic class will be this interface will be enumerable of that specified type. So what I'm going to do there, I need to pass in the type there. So right, what we are therefore saying, we are saying, all right, allow this class of a specific type, a generic type, inherit from an interface, and then you specify an interface of that specific type. So I'm going to have a constraint in here, and then I'm going to say where that particular type, it may be a string, it may be a boolean, it may be an object, it has to inherit from the animal class. Very, very important. So this generic type that you are going to create, which inherits from an interface, that generic type must be a type that inherits from animal. For example, if that specific type is an instance of cow, that would be fine because cow inherits from animal. If it will be of chicken, that would be fine because chicken inherits from animal. But it can never be of a super cow. Why? Because super cow does not inherit from animal. Very, very important, wonderful people, that we understand that. We understand that. Right. Continue, Makeba. Mlotshwa. Right. Let me just get rid of this. I'm going to try and be as slow as I can in explaining what is happening in here. So let me tag so that we don't make any mistakes. So I'm just going to say here and class. I'm not going to be very prescriptive. And here I will just say and namespace. Very good. So what I'm going to do there is just to say, all right, first of all, what is it that I need to do? I need to provide an implementation of this interface. Now, what does this enumerable interface do? What it does is that it exposes the enumerator, which supports a simple iteration over a collection of a specified type. And this is exactly what I want to do. I want to traverse through my specified type of a list, and I want to do what now? I want to have access to the objects that I might create in there. So we need to provide an implementation for that. It says that that specified type does not implement the interface member enumerable.get enumerator. So this is what we need to implement. Now the question is, how are we going to do this? First of all, I'm going to create a private list. So this will be private and this will be a list. So I am just creating a private list, and this list will be a list of a certain or of a particular specific type. Right, and I'm going to call this list of a specific type a generic list that I'm creating. I'm going to call this animals. Sorry, let me use small letters. So I'm going to call this animals, and I'm going to equate that to a new list of that specified type. So I am reserving memory for whatever list that I will have in there. So I'm creating a private list which I will not have access to when I'm outside of this class. And this list that is private, which is of a specific type, which I will specify as we continue, I'm calling this list a list of animals, and I am reserving memory for as many as objects as I will have in here. Very good. And then because this is private, I also need to have a public one. So I need to have a public, for example, I need to have a public field that would be able to allow me to access the private list that I have. So I'm going to say public, and this will be a list, remember, of a specified type, and I'm going to call this a list of animals. So I'm going to call this animals. So let me not do that. So what is this? What am I doing in here? What is this? Is an accessor. Very, very important. Form of a specified type, property or indexer, or an indexer must have one accessor, a get or a set. So here I am creating a property. Now, what is the function of this property that is public? This property will go into a list of that specified type, and what will it get? It will get for me, and it will return the animals. Very, very important. This property has one accessor, which is a get, and the function is to go inside of your animals private list and get me all those animals that are inside there. So why is this property a list? Because I will be having as many animals as possible, so not only one will be there. So hence this is a list, so that it can be able to get everything that is inside there. And I'm calling this property animals. It will get for me what? All the animals that are inside of that private list. And it has to be of type list. Why? Because I have a private list. It is a list that it will get. Therefore, it has to be a list property that I declare of that specified type. Very, very important. So this is the property that I have. And it only has a get. I just hope that we have understood this. Right. And then now I want to provide an implementation of this interface, which I call IEnumerable. Very good. So what does this interface does? What will it do? So what I'm going to do in there is to have a public IEnumerator, because remember when we were here, it said farm does not implement the interface member IEnumerable.get enumerator. So this is exactly what I am trying to implement in here. So I'm going to say IEnumerable, very good, of that specific type. And I'm going to say get, and when you look there, I made a mistake. So IEnumerator there it is, of that specific type. And then there I have it now, get enumerator. Right, so you will say get enumerator because remember you are implementing this. And what is this? This is a method. Very, very important. The yellow color in there shows you that it is a method. And all methods and the right line are being colored with yellow there. So it is important that we see that. Right. So this is a method. And then what does it do? It returns an enumerator that iterates through a collection. So this method will iterate inside of my private list of animals. And what is it that it is going to do? Now, this is a method that accepts no arguments. Very, very important. And I'm going to use the fat arrow there. So what will it do? It will go inside of animals. Dot, when you press the dot there, then it says get enumerator. And what does the enumerator does? It returns an enumerator that iterates through a list. And this is exactly what I want. Get enumerator. And the get enumerator is also a method. What will it do? It will return an enumerator that iterates through a list. So it returns a list of a specific type enumerator. So when I say animal.get enumerator, it will go inside of your list of animals which you will create instances, and then it will get what now? It will return an enumerator that iterates through a list. This is exactly what it will do. So this is the function of this. Public, it has to be public. Enumerator. What does the enumerator does? It's an interface, and it supports a simple iteration over a generic collection. Do we have a generic collection? Yes, it is a generic collection of a specific type. So you have to say enumerator, which is a generic collection. Get enumerator, it's a method that accepts no argument. Then it will go inside of animals and it will get that collection for you. Very, very important that we understand this. Then I'm not done there. Then you will go and say enumerator. Very, very important. This enumerator, I'm not going to specify the type. But when I press the space, now you have enumerable, which is an interface. Very important. And when you press the dot there, when you press the dot, you have get enumerator, which does what? Just press the tab there and then it will implement that for us. So when we are here, it says using generic type enumerator, T requires one type argument. And then we can just come here and show some potential fixes. You see what we need to do? We have to import them. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So when you import there using system.collections, so what has transpired now? Now it has moved away. But let me show you something. If I tag this and we have a problem there. So exactly what does the first one exactly do? So this one is public, enumerator of a specific type, get enumerator, and then it will do what now? It will go inside of your collection and then it will get the enumerator for you. So it will return an enumerator that iterates through a list. Very important. So it returns a list. This is exactly what it does. So I'm making this public. I'm not implementing this interface. If I want to implement this interface, let me show you this. Here, I am now implementing the interface in here. And I'm therefore saying IEnumerator, IEnumerable.getEnumerator, and then it will go to animals.getEnumerator. Now I want you to see the difference in here. In the first one, and it will still have that red there, unless both have been met. So the first one, it's a public enumerator of a specified type. Why? Because IEnumerable exposes the enumerator which supports a simple iteration over a collection of a specified type. So in here, I'm having a public IEnumerator of a specified type. And this is a method which you will find inside of the IEnumerator, because this is an interface. This interface of this interface of a specified generic type has a method which we call getEnumerator. This method accepts no arguments, and what it does, it returns, or what it does, we can say it returns an enumerator that iterates through a list. So it will get for you a collection of animals. First of all, you need to specify that type. Secondly, here you say IEnumerator, and then you have a space. Then you go to IEnumerable, which is an interface. Where is it? There it is, IEnumerable. So I am now implementing this interface. IEnumerable dot, it has a method there which we call getEnumerator, which returns an enumerator that iterates through a collection. And then it will do what now? It will return a collection of animals. So you must have both of these implemented there. Very, very important that we understand this. Okay, that is fine. Nothing is new. So let me just have a public method in here that returns a void, and let me just call this method make noises. So this is just a method that I have. It will accept no argument. And this method that I have, which returns a void, which I call make noises. What is it that I want this method to do? First of all, I want to have a for each loop, and this for each loop will be of a generic type. So I'm passing in there a generic type, and I'm calling this animal, small letters, animal in animals. Remember that this private list is available in the class where it is defined. So what is it that I want to do in there? So what I want to do in there, I just want to say animal dot, and then when you press the dot there, we are having access to feed. No problem with this. So because what makes that possible, we don't have any method in this class which is feed, but because that specified type must inherit from animal, therefore inside of animal we have this feed and make noise. Very, very important that you see that. So that's what makes it possible that when we are here, we are able to have access because of the constraint that we have provided there. So I'm just going to say dot, and I just want to have access to this method which we call make noise. Now I want to show you how powerful this is. Though farm does not inherit from animal, but because farm is a generic type that inherits from an interface of that specified type, where the constraint that says that specified type must inherit from animal. So when I say T here, animal in animals, I'm having access to any public methods and fields that are inside of animal. Highly and highly important that we see this. And then when things are in this nature, what is it that we want to do? So this is all what I want to do. So this will be highly and highly possible. I will not have any error in here because of the constraint that I'm having there. Not necessarily because of the interface. No, this is just an interface that we are implementing some methods that are inside there. This interface, I enumerator and I enumerable, we are providing an implementation for that. So what makes this possible is that farm also has a constraint where the specified type inherits from animal. So this constraint makes it possible for us to iterate through these animals and to have access to the methods that are exposed inside of animal. So we need to understand this. So that's all what I want to do in there. And then secondly, let me have another method which will be public, which will return void, and then I'm going to call this method feed the animals, and the method is also not going to accept any arguments. So what it will do also, I will have a for each, because I know I have a method inside of animal which is called feed. So just in here I'm going to say animal dot, and I'm having access to feed there. Highly and highly important that we try to understand what is happening in here. Now we understand thus far what is happening. Maybe there might be some problems for you to digest all this, but thus far everything is fine. Now let us continue. Now let me try to have a public farm. So immediately when I do this, what comes into your mind is that I'm creating a constructor. So I'm going to pass in a T there. No, let me not pass in a T there. Let me be very specific that now the generic type that I want to pass there, it's of type cow. So I'm going to pass in a cow there, and I'm going to call this a cow farm. Very, very important. And what does this looks like to you? No, let me not do that. Let me just say this is equals to new. I'm reserving memory farm cow. So what am I doing in here? Let me just close this. So what is it that I'm doing in here? So I am having a public farm, and I specify the type in here. It will be of type cow, and I'm calling this cow farm, and I'm reserving memory for that. So in other words, I'm saying when I instantiate farm of a specified type cow, and I'm calling this is just a field. So what it will do in here, let's see what is it that I want to achieve there. So I want to have a for each loop. So what I want to do there, let me see what is happening here. So here I am having okay, before I do this, I think I should have a public farm, and then I will specify that it is of type cow, and I'm going to call this get cows. Now I want you to see something in here. I'm having, and it says a suggested name. This is just a suggested name. And what does this looks like? It looks like something like okay, let me just do this, and let's just do this. What is this? This looks exactly like, so when we hover over here, it says farm of a specified type, not all code returns a path. So this is a method. The yellow color tells you that it is a method which we call get cows, and this method, it will be public. This method, public farm, which is a class, a generic class, I have to specify a type which will be of type cow, and I'm calling this method get cows. It accepts no argument. So what is it that it is going to do? Because it has to return an object. So what I'm going to do there, I'm going to first try to instantiate my farm. So I'm going to say farm, and I'm going to pass in the cow, which I will call cow farm, and I'm going to say this is new farm cow. Very, very important. So what am I doing there? It looks like a constructor, which we will say yes it is, because this is a generic class. So what I'm saying there, I'm having my class of a specified type cow. I'm calling this cow farm equals new. So what is this? Here I'm creating an instance of cow farm. I am creating an instance of cow farm inside of a method, a public method. So this is public farm. This is a class of a specified type, and I'm calling this method get cows. So this is a method. But what type of a method is this? This is a generic method. So this is a generic method that we are having here. And this generic method is a method of a type cow. Because why are we saying this is a method? There it is a method of a specified type cow. So look at this as a method. It is a public method, and here I'm specifying the name of the class, which is farm, and it is of a specified type cow. So what it will do, it will go to instances of cow, and then what will it do? So here I am creating an instance of cow, and I'm calling this cow farm. And what is it that I want to do in there? I want to run a for each so that it can traverse through inside of my collection, but be very specific to look at those objects which are of type cow. I sketch, I molotwa. Right, let me press the tab there. So remember, this is a for each of that specified type. I will call animal in animal. So what it will do, it will go inside of animals and it will only look at those instances of type cow. And it will get that when you invoke this method, only those instances of type cow will be returned, or whatever that you want will be done there. So if it will iterate inside of my animals collection, then I want to check now. Now I'm going to run a check. If that animal that you will find inside of your collection is a cow, meaning it implements cow, or it inherits from cow, or maybe there is some connection that has to do with it with something else, please, if that is true, then there's something that I want you to do in there. And what is it that I want you to do there? Now I want to go to my instance, which I called cow farm. And when you are in that cow farm, remember the cow farm has access to the animals because of the constraint. So when I say cow farm and I press the dot and I say animals, what is this? This is a property that I have that exposes the private list that I have. So when I press the dot there, I am now adding. And what is it that I'm adding? I am adding all those animals as cows. I'm adding animal as a cow. Very, very important. So what it will do, it will add those animals as cows. Only those animals which are of type cow will be added in here. So this is what I want. And now remember, it accepts an object, therefore it has to return an object. Now I will return. And what is it that I'm going to return? I'm going to return what is stored inside of cow farm. So cow farm has all the objects that are inside there. So I'm going to return cow farm. Very, very important. And let us try to look into this. You see, cow farm is not null here, so it will return all those objects in there. I just hope that we have understood exactly what is happening in here. Now what I'm going to do is to go inside of the main. And when I am inside of the main, I'm going to create an instance of farm. So I'm going to say farm. Remember, you have to specify a type. So this will be of type animal. Very, very important. It even tells you here, farm, specify a type where that type is inheriting from an animal. So I am passing in animal here because I know that cow and chicken inherit from animal. So that is why I'm passing in animal there as a specified type. And what am I going to call this? I'm going to call this farm. And this is going to be equals to a new farm of type animal. And I'm just going to close this. So I have created an instance of a generic class of type animal called farm. And now I'm going to add inside of my collection now. So I'm going to say farm dot, and I know how I can add inside of the private list. It's via a public property that I have created there, which is of type list, and therefore it exposes this method which we call add. So I'm going to add a new cow, and I'm going to call simply this cow a rural. So inside, look what it's going to happen here. Remember, via this public property, what am I doing? I am adding inside of my private list. And what is it that I'm adding? I am adding instances, and the first instance that I'm adding in there, it's of type cow, and I'm calling this a rural. Very, very important that we understand this. Very, very important. So via the property, this public property, and then remember what the property will do. It will return what? It will return a private list. So I am in essence adding to the list via a property, and I'm adding what now? I am adding instances inside of my collection. I hope that we understand here. Not only one that I'm going to add, maybe I'm going to add 3 or 4. So let me add another one, which is a new chicken. Very good. And I'm going to call this chicken Donna. Very good. And then I'm going to add another chicken here. So this will be of type chicken, and I'm going to call this Pope. And then let me add for the very last time, cut and paste. So let me add in there a super cow, super cow, which I will call Ben. Now let's go and look at this class. Now super cow inherits from cow. It doesn't inherit from animal. So I'm just adding there inside of my what? Inside of my private list. So I'm just adding this. Very, very important that we understand this. And for simplicity purposes, let's make this public so that we don't complain at the end of the day. So because super cow inherits from cow, it will have access to all the private members and fields and methods that are exposed inside of cow. So nothing is new in here. Highly and highly important. And you might be asking yourself, how am I able to add super cow inside of animal, because it doesn't inherit from animal? Now remember, this is a child of cow. So because it is a child of cow and the parent, which is cow, inherits from animal, therefore you will be able to add that when you create an instance, a generic instance of type animal of your farm. So you will be able to do this. Something worthy of noting. And then from there, let me check if I say farm dot, and let me see what I can have access to there. So I can aggregate, I can append, and so much. So let me go inside of animal and look if I can have access to some of the methods like make dot make noises. There it is. So let's see whether all these animals that are added inside of my collection will be able to make noise. Let's just see this. So let us try to run this and check. So let's just give it a couple of minutes before we can work into this. Okay, it is loading up. Please, let's just try to be patient. There it is. Let me just do this. So let's see whether all these instances will make noise. Ruan says moo, cluck, cluck, because I created two. And Ben says moo. And I know inside of this super class I don't have that method, but because it inherits from cow, therefore it will say that Ben makes moo. So there is nothing mysterious about what we are seeing in here. This is exactly what we had or that we wanted to see. So inside of our collection we have 4 instances. Right, now this is where things get a little bit more interesting. So now we have invoked this method. Okay, let me just comment that one out. Now secondly, what is it that we want to do? Now secondly, I'm going to say farm of a specified type, and now this time I'm not going to pass in animal. I'm going to be very specific that the type is of type cow. Very important. And I'm going to call this a dairy farm. Very good. And I'm going to say this is equals. Now I'm going to go inside of farm, and I know inside of this class there is a method that I call get cows. So now remember, this is a method that accepts no argument. Let me just take you there very quickly just to explain where is this method that I am referring to. There it is. I'm having this method, and remember what this method would do. This method will go inside of your collection, and what it will do and what collection, I'm being very specific here. Remember that this method, when you invoke this method, you say farm, and the type that you have to specify here, the generic type has to be of type cow. How do we know that? There it is. So what it will do, it will go inside of your collection and only look at those instances which are of type cow. It will isolate them. And I am traversing through that collection trying to isolate only those instances that are of type cow. And how am I sure am I doing exactly that? I'm having a check here. If the animal is cow, meaning it's of type cow, it inherits from cow like a superclass as we have saw. Now what I want to do, I want to say cow farm dot animals dot add. So I am going to add that animal as a cow. And what am I returning there? I am returning that instance which is of type cow. So I am adding inside of what now? Inside of cow farm. So in other words here, I am creating a new list. Let me put it that way. I am creating a new list of animals, but only those which are of type cow. I am adding an animal as a cow. Only that animal that inherits from cow will be returned in here. And where am I adding that? Cow farm dot animals via a property that exposes what is inside of a private collection. Add, I am adding that animal as a cow, and I'm returning that cow farm. So cow farm will in actual fact return a collection of only those animals which are of type cow, because I have added them inside of a list as a cow. I don't know whether I'm explaining this correctly, but this is how I understand the things are happening in here. And we are going to see whether this is true or whether this is not. So remember, we are still in the main there. Right, okay, that is fine. This is what I have. And then what I'm going to do now in here, I'm saying go inside of this instance, or go inside of this class dot, and then expose this method because it's a public method. So what I'm saying is go and get all the instances of type cow and store them inside of my dairy farm as a collection. This is exactly what I'm saying there. Because remember, this returns an object, and I'm storing those objects inside of dairy farm. This is exactly what I am doing there. And then now I want to traverse inside of dairy farm and check whether only those which are of type cow were truly saved. So I'm going to go inside of a for each loop, and what I'm going to do there, now I'm being specific. I have my class there, and I'm calling this cow in dairy farm. So dairy farm has all those objects which are of type cow. But first I want to run a check. I want to say if cow is a super cow. You see now what I'm doing there? If a cow is a super cow, is cow a super cow? Yes, it is, because inside in here we can see that super cow inherits from cow. So super cow is in actual fact a cow. So a cow, that instance, is a super cow if that is true. So meaning if super cow inherits from cow, this is what I'm saying there, then what is it that I want to do there? Right, I want cow as a super cow, and then when you press the dot there, I want to expose this method. And look at what we are having there. We are having access to all the methods that are inside of cow and all of the methods that are inside of super cow. Very, very important. We have milk that is inside of cow. We have fly that is inside of super cow. We have feed, which cow inherits from animal. We also have get type. We are not interested in this. We also have make noise. You see, so make noise, it's a method that is inside of cow, which is public, which is inherited by super cow. So this, when I say cow as a super cow, I am allowing myself to expose every method that are inside cow and super cow, and they will all be in here. Everything. So hence I'm saying in here, if cow is a super cow, right, and then I'm therefore saying cow as a super cow, and then it will expose this. And what is it that I want there? I just want this method which says fly, and I can run this and check whether things will transpire the way in which they are. So in here, let's see which ones in here were selected. Let us check this. This is very, very important. So I must have cow and only super cow. Why? Because super cow inherits from cow, and here I'm having cow as a super cow. So let us try to run this and check. And I think I have explained what is happening in here. I might have made mistakes here and there, but I tried to explain. This is not something very easy to understand. This is something that gives a lot of headache. So let us see which ones we have. So cow is a super cow. So what we set in here, let me show you. So only Ben was printed out. Right, cow is a super cow. So remember in here, so it only selected one, which is a super cow. So it went inside of your dairy. So inside of your dairy farm, you only you have one instance, which is super cow. This is all what you have. Right, let's go there and check. So in here, animal is a cow. So which animal inherits from cow? There's only one, and that is the super cow. Only super cow inherits from cow. So we are therefore not surprised that only Ben, here I come to save the day. Only Ben, we have only one instance inside of dairy farm. And then cow as a super cow dot fly, it will print that out for us. So this is the only instance that we have, which is a super cow. Very, very important that we understand that. So meaning in here, when I said cowfarm.animals.add animal as a cow, add that animal that inherit from a cow, because I said that if animal is a cow, therefore super cow is a cow because it inherits from cow. So we are only having one instance inside of that. So only one instance will be inside of your dairy farm. So to show that this is correct, we can just copy this and paste, and we can create another super cow, which we can call let me just call this Lee. Let me call that Lee. And then what it will do, we will now have two printouts. We will now have two printouts. And there we have it. So this is all, guys, what I wanted to share with you. Please, let's try to sit down and see exactly what is happening in here. And then I will see you in the next tutorial.